We didn't want them to die, and we didn't want to die ourselves.
The cold also was an issue. Some of the children were quite small, so we were quite concerned about how well the smaller children would hold up in terms of the journey out through the water.
A deep underground cave, darkness everywhere, no food to eat. Is it day or night? Is anyone coming? Seems like this is the end of a short life. The Tham Luang Cave, dubbed as the Thailand Cave Rescue, is an awe-inspiring story of how a group of 13 individuals was rescued from a flooded underground cave, involving more than 5,000 rescuers, soldiers, and police officers. Thailand is a country that boasts incredible forests, beaches, and caves. Along the northern border, housed within the Doi Nang Nan Mountains, lies Tham Luang, an extremely perilous and complex limestone cave system. It has dangerously narrow crevices and pits, and is also prone to flooding during Thailand's annual monsoon season. The 12 athletes mentioned previously often went to explore the cave after practice, and 25-year-old assistant coach Eventful Chantawang used to accompany them. However, on June 23, 2018, as the group crawled deep into the cave, torrential monsoon rain started pouring outside, flooding the cave at an alarming rate. The group was soon trapped with no way out. Cell phones had no reception, and they had little else except their flashlights. Meanwhile, on June 24th, the head coach of the team was alerted that the children had gone missing. Dozens of calls went to voicemail until one of the team members answered. He had luckily returned from soccer practice earlier and told the head coach about what had transpired. Immediately, a high-priority search began. Soon, the stranded team's shoes, bikes, and bags were found at the mouth of the cave. The boys and their coach were still inside, but nobody knew if they were alive. Time was running out. Key passages had already been flooded. All other entry points were either blocked or deemed too risky. The stakes were high, very high. In the cave, the boys started to lose their strength. Escape would not be possible until the water level dropped. The stranded youngsters used meditation techniques, both to pass the time and calm the senses. In an interview, Chantawang, the soccer coach, recalled, "We walked normally. After we went into the cave, we knew we were stuck on the way back out. Before we slept, we prayed to Buddha. We thought in the morning water would come down and officials would look for us. We weren't scared at that time." Meanwhile, news of the emergency started making rounds on local and social media. The whole world was watching. At the site of the cave, full-fledged rescue infrastructure was being deployed. On June 25th, Thai Navy SEAL divers were ushered in, but the flooded sections of the cave proved to be dead ends. An aerial survey using helicopters was mobilized in the hope of identifying alternative entry points. Ultimately, the decision was made to try and pump out the water from the cave. Industrial-grade pipes were laid out with the help of locals. However, the water levels would not budge. Deep inside, the boys desperately clung on to hope for survival. They had used rocks to carve out a small cavern to maximize and harness body heat. After all, that was the best they could do. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe. We upload weekly videos about the most exciting and mysterious events ever to have been documented. By this time, on June 26th, the event had attracted international appeals for help. Spearheaded by British spelunking experts John Valanthan, Richard Stanton, and Robert Harper, the search and rescue efforts reached new heights. Utilizing their knowledge of the terrain, Richard and John made their first dive. Underwater visibility was almost zero because of the residue-infested rainwater and winding pathways of the cave. Braving the water current flowing against their direction, Richard and John placed guideline ropes along the cave walls, marking a safe passage. They were able to make some progress, but had to return early. It was just too dangerous.
The visibility in the water is very, very low, so varying down to a few inches.
Rescue experts from all over the US, Europe, and Asia volunteered to play their part. This bore fruit on June 29th, when the divers reached a section dry enough to be used as a supply and rendezvous point, labeled as Chamber 3, a pivotal development in what was to come. The story of the Thai cave boys had become almost like a local legend. Families prayed, friends set up shrines, elders offered peacekeepings to the spirit of the cave. Locals, officials, and soldiers pumped out water and set up camps wherever they could. Journalists probed the area for any new updates. All eyes were on the Thai cave rescue mission. On July 1st, 2018, using Chamber 3 as a starting point, the British team of divers decided to go all in. They tried not to look at their remaining oxygen levels as they swam past Pattaya Beach, an elevated section of the cave previously thought to be the actual target destination, but it was deserted. They needed to go deeper, farther.
Wherever there is airspace, we surface, we shout, and also we smell. And in this case, we smelt the children before we actually saw or heard them.
Seeing was believing. Glowing faintly, the British divers saw a light and then heard voices. The 12 boys and their coach had been found alive and without any major injuries. However, they were severely sleep-deprived and malnutritioned. Abdul Sam was the only Thai boy who could speak English and explained the group's situation to the divers.
How many of you? 13. Brilliant.
It was now time for extraction. This was easier said than done. The boys could not be taught how to swim because of the lack of time, strength, and experience. A rescue shaft could not be dug through the rock as the cave could either collapse or the rock could be too hard. They could just wait till the monsoon season subsided, but the Thai boys had already been stranded for long enough. They needed to get out, not stay in. Elon Musk even pitched in the idea of child-sized submarines, but this was marked impractical as well due to high costs and operational risks. The Thai government sought the advice of Richard Harris, an Australian anesthesiologist and cave diving expert. After a thorough medical assessment, he came up with a high-risk, high-reward plan. The children would be sedated and attached to rescue scuba divers with ropes. Diving masks and oxygen tanks would be attached to their mouths to prevent air loss. They would then be escorted by assigned teams one by one to the cave exit. The rescue operation would need to be carried out in stages, with constant runs for restocking supplies in between. While this plan was being put into action, 7 Thai Navy SEALs delivered food and medicine to the Thai boys. 4 of the divers decided to stay behind to help the group rehabilitate and prepare as much as possible. Tragically, Saman Kunan, a volunteer and former Thai Navy SEAL, lost consciousness due to lack of oxygen while delivering diving tanks to the boys. News of his passing was initially kept under wraps, so as not to disturb the already troubled youngsters. Finally, on the 8th of July 2018, a team of Thai Navy SEALs, British divers, and Australian cavers was deployed to retrieve the boys and their coach. The rescuers had to ensure their own safety and keep a constant eye on their sedated cargo's oxygen levels and body orientation. By 7 p.m., 4 boys had been rescued. They were rushed to the local hospital while the divers replenished their supplies. On 9th and 10th of July 2018, the remaining boys were rescued safely. The mission was a success. After the rescue, the boys were provided psychiatric and physical therapy. The King of Thailand issued a formal letter of gratitude to all parties involved, and the rescue divers were hailed as international heroes. The heroic sacrifice of Saman Kunan was immortalized in the form of a massive statue and a posthumous promotion to lieutenant commander. There were controversial discussions about holding the team's assistant coach legally responsible for negligence, but these were ultimately dropped. The legacy of this event was tainted by 2 more tragic events later. In December 2019, Beirut Pakbara, a Thai Navy SEAL who had been part of the mission, succumbed to a life-threatening blood infection he had contracted a year earlier. Then, just last year on 28 October 2023, the former captain of the trap soccer team died by suicide, reigniting debates about the nature of the whole event. The Thai cave rescue remains a topic of interest even today, from spawning a dramatic retelling on Netflix to a slew of interviews and memorials. The mission was a story of the human spirit remaining indomitable even in most dire situations. A story of hope, courage, sacrifice, and victory. Interested in more stories like this? Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our next episode of the bizarre, the uncanny, and the most exciting eventful realities.